Why should I believe the Bible? Is a question you may have asked, or at least heard someone ask. The short answer is because only the Bible makes sense of life and provides satisfactory answers to our most basic questions. Our understanding of ourselves and life as a whole is shaped by our worldview. And our worldview is dramatically impacted by how we relate to God's revealed truth in the Bible. In this video, we're going to briefly consider some of the logical conclusions that inescapably flow from our worldview. Hello, I'm Jim LaBerge, and welcome to our second video on the topic of Revelation. We're often shocked by the cruelty and injustice we observe in life. The evening news constantly confronts us with images of brutality and indifference to the lives of other people. We wonder, how can people treat each other in these ways? The answer and the solution lie in understanding the world in which we live. There are inescapable, logical conclusions that flow from our basic worldview. This is true for individuals as well as nations. There are logical consequences for embracing an impersonal view of reality. Equally true, but vastly different, there are logical consequences for embracing a personal view of reality. Let's think about those two possibilities. Let's consider the historical consequences of adopting an impersonal view of reality. I vividly remember my experience of walking through the Holocaust Museum in Israel. The journey through the museum is laid out chronologically. You begin by encountering the early years of Hitler's time in power, and you progress chronologically toward the final solution. The first exhibits are the characters of Jewish people in which they're portrayed with enlarged eyes and insect-like features. The last exhibit is a glass-encased area of the shoes of men, women, and children taken from the victims of Hitler's gas chambers. It was Hitler's ideology of the master Aryan race, based on the atheist Darwinian theory of evolution, that justified and even demanded the genocide of the Jewish people. Other atrocities of horrific genocide could be cited by leaders such as Stalin or Pol Pot or Mao Zedong. All of them adopted the same ideological basis. These men all believed in an impersonal view of reality. Let's think about how our worldview, if logically followed, leads to certain conclusions. First, how does the impersonal view of reality understand those serious questions we discussed? Identity, meaning, purpose, morality, origins. Let's consider some of these questions one at a time. Identity. What does it mean to be a human being? If the principle of evolution is logically maintained, a human being is ultimately only material. A human being can be reduced to highly organized chemical substances and processes. If human value is understood from that perspective, the intrinsic value of a person is replaced by pure utilitarianism. In other words, people are valuable only based upon their usefulness. The qualities of intelligence, beauty, physical abilities, or talent are the only possible measure of individual worth. People who view themselves in this way are always forced to ask themselves, am I enough? They're condemned to always perform in order to be valuable. The question of personality, including the reality of self-determination, is a mere illusion. People can be reduced to biological complexity and social conditioning if the universe is impersonal. Personality does not and cannot exist, only complexity. The individual in this view becomes a thing, an entity to be used or manipulated, not a person to be known, valued, and loved. Since impersonal cannot get rise to personhood, people are only things. What about meaning? If meaning in life is also consistently determined by this position, since everything is a product of time and chance, we're left only with that which is accidental and material. Life is only the meaning that we assign to it. It's relative and purely temporal. We can have no transcendent meaning. All life, both individual and corporate, will ultimately come to an impersonal end. Let's think about purpose. Our purpose is relative to whatever the individual or the corporate society may assign. Purpose is defined along purely pragmatic lines. Morality, in this view, is determined only on the basis of what the individual may think. right and wrong does not and cannot exist. There can be no absolute answers in regard to the question of what's right and what's wrong. Without a lawgiver, there cannot be any law, only consensus and preference. The very concepts of right and wrong, good and bad, become relative. If a person truly believes in evolution, that might makes right, and the concept of the survival of the fittest, there's no logical reason not to crush the individual or whole groups of people that they may deem to be weaker or inferior. This is true individually and corporately. Intolerance, racism, elitism, indifference to human suffering are all consistent with the premise of an impersonal universe. Hitler and others, both past and present, horribly illustrate the outcome of this line of thought. When we think about our origins along an impersonal universe, the simple answer is that everything is merely accidental. Humanity and life itself is a huge crapshoot that, although infinitesimally improbable, hit the cosmic lottery. Our destiny, if the cause of human existence is impersonal, there is no escaping the conclusion that each individual and humanity itself will finally come to an impersonal end. Ideas about life after death or heaven, reuniting with loved ones, would be mere fairy tales for grown-ups, just to help us cope with the darkness and silence of the unknown. If logically followed through, the impersonal view of reality leads to fatalism and despair. Now, in order to avoid these conclusions, people irrationally borrow sentiments from a personal worldview. People practice avoidance strategies or sometimes seek to escape through substance abuse or entertainment. Only a personal view of reality is sufficient to align all the facts of life and provide them with coherence. Not only is it the best explanation of the complexity of life and the order of the universe, it affords the only real answers to the most important questions of life. I hope you'll join with me next time as we explore how the personal view of reality, revealed in the Bible, answers these same questions and provides us with an unshakable foundation for our life as we continue to explore the concept of revelation. Thank you so much.